وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. As we continue in Bulugh al-Maram by the great Imam Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, who died 852 after the hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. We stopped at the hadith of Jabir radiallahu an, after we concluded the narration in regards to one allowing himself to throw up, for example, by something that he might have happened to smell or look at or hear, something that might have made him vomit, in regards to what's something that happened that wasn't in his control, It wasn't in his control. We said in regards to that narration, it says, "Man dhara'ahu al-qay' fala qada alayh." That for one who's vomited, it overtakes him, and he doesn't, meaning from his own. That meaning that he's done it due to the fact that something overtook him. That we said that he does not have to make it up, rather he continues to fast. As we conclude that narration, and we move on to the next, on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, it says that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he left out on the year of the Am al-Fath, for the conquest of Mecca, in Ramadan. And we talked about yesterday where they reached that place called Al-Ghamim, or Qura' al-Ghamim. We said the meaning of Qura' is just taraf, the edge of something. The meaning of Qura' in the Arabic language, Qura' means taraf, means the edge of something. It was a place called Al-Ghamim, where it's on the route towards, between Mecca and Al-Madinah. There's a place called Al-Ghamim. So the people, Ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, as you see in the narration, فَصَامَ النَّاسُ ثُمَّ دَعَ بِقَدْحٍ مِّن مَاءٍ فَرَفَعَهُ حَتَّى نَظَرَ النَّاسُ إِلَيْهِ ثُمَّ شَرِبَ فَقِيلَ لَهُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ إِنَّ بَعْضَ النَّاسِ قَدْ صَامَ فَقَالَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْعُصَاةُ to the end of the narration. So we talked about, and this is what we started actually. He says that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he called for a container of water, and he raised it in front of the people until they all started looking at him. Then he drank from the water, and it was said after that, verily there are some people who are continuing to fast. He said they are disobedient. There's another narration where it was said, verily some people, the fast has become difficult upon them. Verily some people, verily the fast has become difficult upon them. And verily they are waiting for what you're doing or what you're going to do. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called for a container of water after Asr, and he drank from the water. This is where we started last class, which was yesterday, and this is what we're going to elaborate and give more details in this regard. So read not only this narration, we're going to read the next one too, because it's all concluded, or it's all connected. Look at the other narration. If you look in your books, it says on the authority of Humzah ibn Amr al-Aslami, أنه قال يا رسول الله أجد بي قوة على الصيام في السفر فهل علي جناح فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هي رخصة من الله فمن أخذ بها فحسن ومن أحب أن يصوم فلا جناح عليه. So you notice in this narration it says, what everyone? O Messenger of Allah, verily I find in myself strength upon siyam while I'm traveling. Is there any problem with that? هل علي جناح? Is there any sin upon me? Was there any sin upon me? So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned and said that it's a rukhsah. He said, verily it is a rukhsah from Allah. Rukhsah in the Arabic language means something that is allowed after it was a different hukum prior towards it, due to the circumstance changing. So something that is allowed but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, so one could be at ease, and he can find less difficulty in the affair of what he would normally do while he wasn't traveling. So it says, Then it goes on to say, O Messenger of Allah, is there any sin upon me? He said it's a rukhsah. So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned and said, it is something that is a rukhsah, something that is allowed from Allah, and whoever accepts it, then it is good. And whoever wants to fast, then there's no sin upon him. So that narration is in Muslim. فَفَعْلِيَ مَعِشَ الْإِخْوَةِ, this narration, and there's another one. And you'll find there's another narration, which I'll read quickly. There's another narration in regards to one traveling. Well, all the narrations are not here in front of us, but there's others. Let me just grab my narration right quick. There's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ seen a man, فَقَدْ ظُلِلَ عَلَيْهِ. Verily there was a man that was, here, alhamdulillah, I just found it. There's another narration when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, also this is on the authority of Jabir, same narrator of the narration in your books. There's another one, listen to this. There's another narration that says, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر فرأى رجلا قد اجتمع الناس عليه وقد ظلل عليه فقال له ما له قالوا رجل صائم فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس البر أن تصوموا في السفر وفي رواية وعليكم برخصة الله التي رخص لكم. And another narration, ليس من البر الصوم في السفر. There's a narration likewise on the authority of Jabir bin Abdullah radiyallahu anhu. It says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was in a travel. He was in a travel and he seen a man that the people were gathered upon. He says, and verily he was been given shade. Basically that the person was either passed out or he was laid out on the ground as if something happened to him. So the Messenger of Allah inquired. So the Prophet ﷺ inquired, what's wrong with him? He says, a man is fasting. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said this, he says, it is not from piety, or it's not piety that a person fasts in their travels. So listen to this narration. It is not piety that you fast in your travel. So that's one narration. That's what I said. I said this narration isn't in your book. There's another narration that says, all these are authentic. Al-Imam al-Albani authenticated all these narrations. There's another narration that says, وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِرُخْصَةِ اللَّهِ الَّتِي رُخِّصَ لَكُمْ. There's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, take the rukhsah in which it has been allowed for you. That's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ said. There's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ said, it is not from piety fasting in one's travels. So that's another narration. There's another narration. It says, وفي رواية للنسائي أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مر على رجل في ظل شجرات يرش عليه الماء فقال ما بال صاحبكم قال يا رسول الله صائم إنه ليس من البر أن تصوموا في السفر وعليكم برخصة الله التي رخص لكم أو رخص لكم فاقبلوها. So there's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ came upon a man and he was in the shade of a tree. He says that it was being sprayed upon him water. Basically, he was laid out, or he's found a great difficulty where it's as if something happened to him. So he said, what's wrong with your partner? What's wrong with your companion? He saw a message of Allah, he's fasting. He says it is not from piety that you fast while you're traveling. It's upon you to take the rukhsah, the allowance, or that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed for you, in which He is allowed, so now accept it. So there's another narration where he said, accept it, فَقْبِلُوهَا. So there's another narration on the authority of Ammar ibn Yasir radiyallahu anhu. It says, أَقْبَلْنَا مَعَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم مِنَ الْغَزْوَةِ فَسِرْنَا فِي يَوْمٍ شَدِيدِ الْحَرِّ. So keep in mind, these narrations that I just read is showing actually a person would take from it being dispraiseworthy to what? Fast while he's traveling. That's what one would gather from all these narrations, right? As if it's dispraiseworthy. Right? As if it's dispraiseworthy. That's what one will understand from it. We'll talk about it, inshallah. طيب. There's another narration on the authority of Ammar ibn Yasir. It says, أقبلنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من غزوة فسرنا في يوم شديد الحر فنزلنا في بعض الطريق فانطلق رجل منا فدخل تحت شجرة فإذا أصحابه يلوذون به وهو مضطجع كهيئة الوجع فلما رآهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ما بال صاحبكم قالوا الصائم قال ليس من البر أن تصوموا في السفر. It's the same basic narration. عليكم برخصة الله التي رخص لكم فاقبلوها. So it's a lot of different narrations. You'll find they're all authentic. It's a lot of different ones in regards to the same man, which happened to him, where this man is as if he was suffering and he was in some pain while he was traveling and he was fasting. So keep in mind the words that I said. He was suffering. He was also what? Finding great difficulty. So keep that in mind. It's the key word. So you'll find all these different narrations that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is as if he dispraised one fasting while he's what? While he's traveling. You'll have another narration which we'll discuss in a couple of minutes, inshallah, where it says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was likewise in another travel, and he was fasting, and the heat was very intense. It was very hot, and the only people who were fasting from amongst the Sahaba was him and Abdullah ibn Rawaha, the great Sahabi, who was called the Sha'ir, the great Sha'ir, or the great poet, who used to give poetry that was beneficial, refuting falsehood. At any rate, Abdullah ibn Rawaha and the Messenger of Allah was the only two fasting in a circumstance where the heat was intense. So he continued to fast. So you have two narrations. You have one that dispraising as if the person should not fast. Then you have a narration where the Messenger of Allah was in his travel and he did what? He did fast. طيب. So now let's go back to the topic at hand. If you look in your books, again, so this hadith is explaining what everyone is talking about, as they say, موضوع الفطر للمسافر وهذا يدل عليه قوله تعالى ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. So this narration is in the topic of what? One fasting while he's traveling, right everyone? The origin of this origin of this affair returns back to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 185. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, whoever is sick from amongst you or upon a travel, then the day to after the period of Ramadan is over, then one can what? Make up that day. So it says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا, whoever is sick, أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر, then a period of time from the times or the other days after the month is over. So the origin of this affair of one breaking his fast while he's traveling, even if it's the month of Ramadan, goes back to the book of Allah, in Surah Al-Baqarah. And you know in the ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it what? Twice. So not only did it mention it once, it mentioned it twice. In the same context. One ayah says, مَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا, and another narration says, وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ. So, one breaking his fast while he's traveling in Ramadan, what indicated that was number one, the book of Allah, and likewise the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, with the prophetic narrations, in which, like also, where there's been a consensus upon this affair, which is what? Kitab, Sunnah, and Al-Ijma'. So not only is it in the book of Allah, in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's also what? It's a consensus. A consensus amongst the Sahaba, that it's allowed that a person can what? Break his fast while he is traveling. Now what is the udhr? What is the actual means or the reason or the excuse that allows al-fitr, that allows for one to break his fast and he's traveling? For number one, we'll find that this is to show the generosity of the Sharia, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated. It's to show how generous the religion is and how complete it is. You'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala من يسر هذه الشريعة ونفيها للحرج عن الأمة فإن السفر مظنة المشقة. Number one, you'll find how this increases and augments our iman. For number one, you'll find that from the generosity of this legislation, that you'll find from its generosity to remove the difficulties and the hardships upon the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why, everyone? Because traveling is madhinnatu al-mashaqqa. It's more than likely the probability that there's going to be some type of difficulty. And for that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lightened the burden off the off the traveler. Lightened the burden off the traveler, in which two difficulties will not take place. So just stop for a second after you finish right now. In which two difficulties will not take place. Because there's two difficulties usually in a travel, which is not one, number one, everyone, which is what? Mashaqqat al-safar wa mashaqqat al-siyam. Two difficulties usually gathers within a travel. For number one, the difficulty of what? Of traveling, and the difficulty of fasting itself. So usually you'll find two difficulties that come together during one's travels. And that's why you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He wants for you ease. And He does not want for you difficulties, it says in the ayah. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Allah wants for you ease, and He does not want for you difficulty, and that you complete the number of days of Ramadan. So now let's go back to the narration. The Prophet ﷺ left out on the conquest of the conquest of Mecca from Al-Madinah, traveling to Mecca during that conquest. And we know that was during the 8th year of the Hijrah. After the Hijrah to Al-Madinah, after its 8th year, as we know, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ and his companions left out until they reached called Al-Ghamim. And we just explained what was the meaning of Al-Ghamim. It's a place that's in the path towards Mecca, which is close to an area called the Usfan, as we know. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he called for that container and he raised it. Why did he raise it? To let all the people see it. Because we know that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was taken as a role model to be what? To be followed. As far as in the ahkam or the rulings of the religion. So he raised that container until the people were looking at him. And once he seen it, he drank from it. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ broke his fast in that particular day. And it was a fast that was obligatory. It's not like it was a voluntary fast. Because they were in Ramadan. What did it say in your books? That they left out for the conquest of Mecca when? In Ramadan. So the fasting that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was performing was what, everyone? It was obligatory. And despite of that, in his travel, he still what? He broke his fast. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had called for that container and he raised it, and the people were looking, you'll find once he broke it, he also commanded that his followers likewise what? Break it. Why? What was the reason? The reason was because they would find a great difficulty while they were fasting. The difficulty and the hardship had became clear, and it became what? It became manifest. So the Prophet ﷺ, as a result of it, wanted to remove that hardship and difficulty upon them, which came as a result of it. He broke his fast and he commanded them to break their fast. You'll find that Ahl Ilm say in this regard, if the people are finding great difficulty and extreme difficulty, of course, or difficulty, especially if it's something that's going to affect their body and their health, then it can switch to another hukum. So it becomes obligatory to what? Break your fast. Especially if it's in what? An extreme circumstance where it could be very detrimental to one's health. And even if it's life-threatening, or it could be a result of something that will cause damage or harm to the body. And if it reaches this level or this extent, then what, everyone? Then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ commanded that what? One break the fast. Due to the fact of so many different ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. Do not kill yourselves. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful to you. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah Ta'ala says, do not cast by your own hands, do not cast yourselves by your own hands into destruction. So all these ayats prohibit what, everyone? That one, if he's finding this great difficulty while he's fasting, and he's to this extent or this extreme where it's going to cause some type of what? Some type of damage upon himself or his health, then he's been commanded to what? To break it. In regards to what you find in this narration, when the difficulty had became prevalent and became clear, the Prophet ﷺ ordered that they what? Break it until when they were what? If you notice in the narration, what does it say, everyone? Still, there were some people that wanted to continue to what? They wanted to fast. What did the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say? They are disobedient. They are disobedient. So when the Messenger of Allah said this also brought us another what? Another emphasis on what? And more clarity of what, everyone? That if fasting while traveling causes this harm to this level, to this extent, then what? You've been commanded to fast. And the hukum of fasting can switch. To the Messenger of Allah ﷺ described them as being disobedient, of isyan, or being asim, of not carrying out his command. So it can switch. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that, he reprimanded them. And he disciplined them. He said the reason in which the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had what? After he had announced that he broke his fast, he expected likewise his followers to what? Take him as a role model to be followed. But however, they continued. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was informed about that, he informed and said that they are disobedient in order to dispraise them. Number one is because they opposed the sunnah. They had what? And they had what? They had, when it gets to sunnah, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and they wanted to what? Insist upon that. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ considered their action to be disobedience because it was in opposition to what he commanded, alayhi salatu wasalam. So, those who leave off the rukhsah, so this was to show, what, everyone? Another affair. And another what? Another command. So what we want to explain is, when the rukhas or the rukhsah of Allah, what does it mean, a rukhsah? Rukhsah, we'll discuss in a second. The rukhsah is something that you'll find that the people of usul al-fiqh, the ulama of usul, al-fiqh of usul, you'll find that they say what they call al-hadr. I can break it down. That you'll find that a rukhsah is as if something was another hukum in its origin, in which Allah had what? Laid down, established. Then due to something of a danger or difficulty or what have you, or any of the like, it switched it due to something else that had became what? More of a benefit, which had took precedence over that affair, which now lightened the burden. For example, we know that we what? We pray 4 rak'at, and we pray in a certain time. But in the travels, we are allowed to what? Either shorten it or pray it in a different time. Not just shorten it, but also pray it in a different time. For example, one prays what? Dhuhr and Asr while he's traveling. He can combine them. And he can pray Dhuhr, or what they call Jam'u Taqdeem or Ta'khir. He can perform Dhuhr in the time of Asr, or he can perform Asr in the time of what? Dhuhr. And in regards to Maghrib, the same thing. He can perform Maghrib in the time of Isha, or Isha in the time of what? Of Maghrib. And he can shorten it. That is called a rukhsah. Another type of rukhsah, for example, if it's raining and there's great difficulty outside, and it's raining in abundance outside, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had mentioned and said, Sallu fi, we have it announced, Sallu fi rihalikum, that pray in your homes. There's a narration where it used to be announced, where if the adhan was called, there will also be an announcement where they would say, pray in your saddles, meaning pray in your homes. Due to the fact that coming to the masjid will be a difficulty upon the people. Pray in the homes. So this is a rukhsah. Right, everyone? And also during the time of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, where they used to combine the salah. when the weather conditions were bad. So when the weather conditions were bad and there's a great difficulty, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah also likewise used to what? Combine the salat in the masjid without shortening it. He would combine Dhuhr wa Asr or Maghrib al-Isha where the weather conditions were extremely difficult or difficult. He would combine it without shortening it if they were what? Residents in the city. This is likewise called a what, everyone? A rukhsa. This is also called a rukhsa. Likewise, one is traveling. If he's in Ramadan, for verily, one has the option, especially if he's finding difficulty in his travels, where he can what? Where he can what, everyone? He can break his fast while he's traveling. This is also likewise called the rukhsa. This is also called the rukhsa. So one can eat, he can drink, and if he has his wife along with him, and his wife are they together, they're companions in the travel, then they can what, everyone? They can also be intimate. They can also be intimate with each other in their travels. This is a rukhsa from Allah. You'll find that a lot of Ahl Ilm has said the rukhsa of Allah Ta'ala is something that is very, very highly emphasized that one take, to the point where even the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said in an authentic narration, which is in Imam Ahmad, where it says, "Inna Allah yuhibbu an tu'ta rukhaso kama yakrahu an tu'ta ma'siyatuh." You'll find in the narration where it says verily Allah loves that the people take his rukhas, that he take his rukhsa, just as he hates that the people transgress or perform his disobedience. So the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves when the abd takes his what? His rukhsa. So take the rukhsa of Allah. If it's been presented, Allah gives it to you, then one should what? Take it. However, in regards to traveling, you'll find there's a narration where it says that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had what? Had still continued to fast in the time where the weather was still what? Hot. So how we gather between this? So based upon all these narrations, you would think that one should what? Just take the rukhsa and relax, and that's it. But however, you'll find that the affair has been gathered in the next narration in your books, where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had laid down and gave absolute clarity in this regard, where he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he say, everyone? Verily, I find strength to what? To fast while I'm traveling. Is there any sin upon me? Is there anything or any problem with that? The Prophet ﷺ said, it's a rukhsa of Allah. So if you want to break it while you're fasting, then you can what? Break it while you're traveling. Whoever accepts it, then that's good. وَمَنْ أَخَذَ بِهَا فَحَسَنْ وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ أَنْ يَصُومْ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ. And whoever wants to what? To fast, then there's no sin upon him. So the Prophet ﷺ laid it down, made it clear. Even though one should take the rukhsa, he says it's a rukhsa from Allah. But however, if one wants to what? To do it, then what? Then there's no problem with that, and he's not sinful. So you'll find that this narration is to say, you'll find the Ahl Ilm that they say in this regard, just to sum it up, that if a person finds great difficulty, then one should what? He should break it. And if one finds that it's ease, and it's not really a difficulty upon him, then then you'll find that Ahl Ilm, listen to the words I'm using, be very attentive. They say it's preferable and better. They didn't say it's wajib. Keep that in mind. It's preferable and better. Al-afdal. It's preferable and better to what? To fast. But notice I didn't say it's what? It's wajib. Is it clear? Why do you say they say it's preferable if one finds ease? Why? Because in it you'll find that Ahl Ilm Majid say فيه سرعة براءة الذمة or تبرئة الذمة, due to the fact to relieve yourself of the obligation of the fast. In regards to the narration of what? To one fasting while he's traveling. if one wants to what? Do it. In it is from the benefits of what? Number one is what they call sur'atu ibra'i dhimma. That you're relieving yourself of the duty in the quickest way possible. To relieve yourself of the duty. In that what? In that particular moment. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? And also likewise you'll find that Ahl Ilm saying that fasting in the month of Ramadan is fasting in a virtuous time. It's fasting in a time where the hasanat or the good deeds are what? Are multiplied. So it's a virtuous what? It's a waqtun fadil. It's a virtuous time. And we know ibadah in this time right now which we're in is something of a higher level. Especially fasting. So that's the reason why they say it's more what? It's preferable or it's what? It's better. Not saying it's what? It's not wajib. But those are from the reasons why they say that if one doesn't find difficulty and he finds ease while he's traveling, then he can what? Break it. Oh, excuse me. That he should what? Fast. Due to those reasons. Due to the fact, like we said, because he relieves himself of the duty in the most quickest way possible, expeditiously, and likewise, number two, it's in a time where it's very virtuous. So we know that the actions that are done in this particular time are what? They're multiplied. So why would one want to take advantage of performing a great ibadah of worship, especially in this particular month? So that's from some of the reasons why they say, disregard their traveling. If one doesn't find the difficulty, then it's preferable and more better that he fasts. But if he's finding difficulty, then it's obligatory from him to what? To break it. If he's finding difficulty. So and that's just to sum up, to let one know in this regard, to gather all the narrations. Because if one sees these other narrations, I find one narration says, Prophet ﷺ commanded the man to break it. Then I find another narration where the Prophet ﷺ did it while he was traveling. Even though he commanded that the people take the rukhsah, I'm not getting it. I'm seeing all these different narrations, you'll find that al-ilm gather between them. Is it clear? They gather between all those narrations. And everything has been summed up in that what? That narration is in your book. Share it with the brothers. You can get a chair. You can get a chair, just share it with the brother. طيب. So that's just to sum up everything. And you'll find that Ahl Ilm, this is what they do. Where they harmonize between all the narrations and bring them together. And this is in a lot of affairs of religion. You'll find that this is what they do, to harmonize and to bring together all the narrations to the point where everything has been what? Leveled out and understood properly. Is it clear, everyone? So, just to gather up in this hadith, this hadith, or these two narrations, it indicates, number one, that it's permissible, يدل على إباحة الإفطار في نهار رمضان للمسافر وهذا بالكتاب والسنة والإجماع. So number one, we gather from this narrations, if you guys want to write it down, you can. This indicates how it's allowed to break one's fast during the day of Ramadan in his travel. That this indicates that it's allowed for one to break his fast while he's traveling in the day of Ramadan for traveling. It's by kitab and it's by sunnah and by the consensus. The consensus of who? They say the ulama, but we know that the consensus of what is the greatest of consensus is the consensus of the Sahaba. Consensus of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Likewise, number two, what is gathered from these narrations, يدل على أنه ينبغي للقدوة من أهل العلم أن يعلن الأحكام الشرعية للناس حتى يعلموها ويعملوا بها لأنهم قدوة. To the end of it. Also for the benefits that's extracted from these narrations is it indicates that the role model to be followed, or the qudwa, the one who's took it as an example from Ahl Ilm, that he should announce the Islamic rulings to the people so they can know it clearly and they can implement it. Because Ahl Ilm, they are the example to be followed. I'll say it again. This narration indicates that the one who's a role model, or the one who's took it as an example to be followed from Ahl Ilm, that he announced the Islamic rulings to the people so they can know it and they can implement it, because Ahl Ilm, they are the qudwa. They are the role model to be taken or to be followed. Also, likewise, what is extracted from these narrations في الحديث دليل على أن المسافر إذا بدأ الصيام لم يلزمه أن يتمه. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يتم هذا اليوم, to the end of it. The third, and this hadith is a evidence that the traveler, even if he started fasting in the morning and he wasn't traveling yet, that is not binding upon him to complete the fast once he's in the travel. So he can start off in his city, woke up before Fajr, ate his sahur, started his fasting in his city. Then let's just say around 12 o'clock, he went out and started in the travel. He left out the city and now he's in his travel. Does he have to complete that fast? Does he have to complete it? No. Based upon this hadith, or these two narrations, it clearly shows that once he's in the travel, he's left out the city and he's in his travels, then what? He does not have to complete it. He does not have to what? Complete it. Because the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, during the conquest of Mecca, if you notice in your books, what do we say, everyone? He broke his fast. And that was in Ramadan. He broke his fast. And he did not complete his fast. Right, everyone? طيب. The fourth في الحديث دليل على أن من خالف الرخصة وهو محتاج إليها فإنه يعد عاصيا لأن الله يحب منه فعل الرخصة فهو فاعل شيئا لا يحبه الله. Fourth, what's extracted from these narrations is an indication that the dalil, the evidence and proof that the one who opposes the rukhsa, he opposes it, he rejects it. He rejects it, even though he's in need of it, then he's considered disobedient. He's considered disobedient. So a lot of us, I think some of the communities are not, for example, it's raining a lot outside and we gather between the prayers here. See people say, why y'all doing that? Because we're taking the rukhsa. It's a difficulty outside, there's ice or there's snow, it's raining, there's a lot of rain outside, the people, there's a danger, there's a difficulty. These are all what they call rukhas, it's a rukhsa. Also, likewise, it says in the narration, if a person is in need of that rukhsa, he does not take it, even though he's in need of it, then he's considered what, everyone? Disobedient. Yu'addu asiya. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves that the people what? Take the rukhsa. He takes that rukhsa. Rukhsa means something that's allowable, in which Allah will give you after a hukum that has been established, but Allah, due to in the circumstance of difficulty, it's been changed momentarily. Everything all right? So if a person does not take it, then he's done something that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love. But He loves and He likes that the people takes His rukhsa. Another fifth thing that has been what? That has been extracted from this narration. هذا الحديث كغيره يدل على يسر هذه الشريعة وسماحتها. From this narration and other than it, from the other narrations, this is a clear indication for the ease of the sharia and its generosity and its liberality, how easy it is, and that the people have not been burdened with difficulty and distress. This is what أنها لا تكلف الناس ولا تكلف الناس المشقة والعنت. That the people have not been burdened with difficulty and distress, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love from His slaves that they find difficulty or make difficulties upon themselves. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And there's so many different examples of that. There's a lot of different examples. So many that what? That cannot be enumerated or counted in the Sharia. طيب. Is it clear so far what we're saying, everyone? طيب. So just put your pens down momentarily. So if a person now, let's say, وإن كان لا يشق عليه الصيام فإن المتعادل إن شاء الصام وإن شاء أفطر. Let's just listen. وعلى كل حال في الصيام في السفر صحيح خلافا لمن ظن أنه رأى أن الصيام في السفر لا يصح. واو. وأنا عليه القضاء كما تقول الظاهرية عندهم أن الصيام في السفر لا يصح. وأنا من صام فلا يجزئه صيامه في السفر وهذا لا شك أنه قول مرجوح بالأدلة. To the end of it. He says now, if they're saying there's no difficulty upon the individual while he's traveling, he said when the affair is muta'adil, that is neutral. There's no difficulty, but it's at the same time, it's not that much of it's not easy, but it's no difficulty. Let's just say it's equal. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had said, if one can fast, then it's good. And if he wants to, he can still break it. But at any rate, just when we want to gather, that fasting while one is traveling is what is valid. In contrast to those who say I don't want to get inside the khilaf. But anyway, there's a madhab called al-Zahiriyah. There's just a madhab, which they do have some correct affairs and there's certain masail and some affairs of the religion which are correct and they are stronger. But the problem is with Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri in his book called Muhalla is that he takes a lot of he looks at the text with it being just apparent, of what's apparent in front of him without gathering the other texts. For example, he says that about fasting and traveling that it's not valid. Why? Because he looked at one aspect of the text, but he didn't look at the others. All he looked at is the narrations that we read. The Prophet ﷺ said it's not from piety that one fasts while he's what? Traveling. And also when he commanded the companions when they were fasting while they were traveling, and they continued to fast even though it was difficult upon them. He said they are what? Disobedient. So he takes the apparent text and that's it. Khalas. That necessitates what? Whoever fasts and he's traveling, your fast is not valid. So he goes to that extreme. That's what Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri mentions in his Muhalla. And that's what? Incorrect. Even you'll find a lot of Ahl Ilm, even Ibn Kathir, if you read in Tafsir, even Abu Muhammad ibn Hazm al-Zahiri mentioned a particular matter about this affair. Even Ibn Kathir refuted him. But anyway, even though certain masail they are stronger, you'll find that Ahl Ilm in certain phases of i'tiqad, especially in Ibn Hazm's position against Khabr al-Wahid, is very strong. They are correct with certain masail, in certain affairs of the religion. But in certain masail, they are clearly absolutely wrong also. But anyway, you'll find that Sheikh Salih Fawzani refutes this notion. What? That if one was to fast while he's traveling, it's invalid. He said this is a weak opinion. That's only for the person that is what? That's finding extreme difficulty and is reaching the level where it might harm him or kill him. Then it switches, where a person has been commanded to what? Break his fast. But just to say, general in all cases, that it's not valid, that's absolutely what? It's rejected. It's false. So that's what he's basically refuting here, Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri. He said, for verily they say that fasting while one is traveling is not valid. And that fasting while one is traveling, he says it will not suffice him. It's not adequate. And it will not remove the obligation to that point. He said, no doubt that this is a weak opinion due to the evidences that has been preceded. He says, كما أن الحديث يدل على مطلق الصيام سواء الفريضة أو النافلة وأن الإنسان إذا لم يجد مشقة في السفر فإنه مخير إن شاء صام فريضة أو نافلة وإن شاء أفطر فهذا ما يدل عليه حديث حمزة ابن أسلمة أو سلمة بس حمزة ابن عمرو الأسلمي هنا حمزة ابن عمرو سائل to the end of it. Yeah, I was right. But anyway, it says in the hadith, which indicates likewise the opposite, that يدل على مطلق الصيام, that a person can fast in his travels, whether it be an obligation or voluntary or supererogatory. That a person, if he does not find difficulty when he's traveling, then he's what? He has the alternative and the choice. Either he can fast, whether it be, of course, whether it be a duty or whether it be a voluntary, it doesn't matter. That he has the option. If he wants to, he could break it. And this is what the indication of the hadith of Humzah ibn Amr al-Aslami in your books, that's what it indicates. At any rate, just to conclude, Ar-Razzaaq in the Arabic language, just has been preceded. What is the meaning of Rukhsa? I'll just write this down real quick. The meaning of the word rukhsa in the Arabic language is as-suhula. As-suhula. Meaning something that's facilitated and easy. Or ease. Or easiness. That's the meaning of rukhsa. Easiness. Or relief. Or what have you. Comes from the word shay'un rakhs. Yani sahl, layyin. Something easy, facilitated, soft. That's the meaning of rukhsa. 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 Ra, kha, sa, ta marbuta. Ra, kha, sa, rukhsa. Ra, kha, sad, ta'un marbuta. Ta'un marbuta. Ta'un marbuta. Rukhsa. Get it later, because we got a lot of stuff to cover. We'll give you to you after the class. طيب. Rukhsa is something easy. Something what? Soft, easy. Listen to what usuliyun, the people of usul al-fiqh, give the definition. It says, وَأَمَّا فِي الشَّرْعِ فَقَدْ عَرَّفَهَا الْأُصُولِيُّونَ بِأَنَّهَا اسْتِبَاحَةُ الْمَحْظُورِ مَعَ قِيَامِ سَبَبِ الْحَظَرِ لِمُعَارِضٍ رَاجِحٍ. It's basically to what? استباحة المحظور مع قيام سبب الحظر. Basically something that's in its origin you would think is impermissible. Like for now, for us to gather between the salat and shorten it, in its origin that's not what allowed. It's prohibited. One was to do that now. If we combine our salat right now, shortened it, would it be valid our salat? There's no reason. Let's right now. If we combine our salat right now, combine Dhuhr and Asr right now, there's no reason for it. There's no difficulty outside, there's nothing going on. Let's just do it because we feel like it. In its origin, if we did it, would it be what? Would it be correct? No. If we combine our salat and shorten it. So in this origin, that's something that's what? Prohibited. But due to the fact, there's a reason for why we did it, due to a difficulty that takes precedence, then it allowed a person to what? To now do this act. Such as, like we just gave numerous examples of it. As we know, if it's some difficulty outside, then one can what? Combine the salat in the masjid. We can combine the salat, but not shorten it, but we can what? We can combine between Dhuhr and Asr. Or Maghrib and Isha, if there's some difficulty outside due to the weather conditions or circumstances of the weather, or what have you. Or during the time of fear. As we know, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that they would pray a certain type of prayer while they were what? While they were in the state of fear, in the time of battle, to the point where they would even move. If you look to Salatul Khawf, the prayer of fear, during the time when they would battle, things were allowed. During the prayer, that's not allowed in its origin, which is to move. You can move around while you were praying, and other things. At any rate, that's the rukhsa. That's another type of rukhsa. Another type of rukhsa is if it was a difficulty outside and it was raining, one could what? Pray in the house. Likewise, if it's difficulty outside. Also, likewise, the women. A woman can combine her salat if she's on what they call istihada. She has istihada, she's bleeding constantly. She can what? Make a ghusl and combine between Dhuhr and Asr. As we talked about with the sisters. That's another rukhsa. And I used to give the fatwa of what the great Imam, who's still living, Atallah fi umrihi, Sheikh Ubayd ibn Sulaiman al-Jabiri, that he gave to the brothers in the UK, where they would break their fast a couple of years ago at 9:30 at night. It was breaking their fast 9:30. So that means Isha came in approximately around 11 o'clock at night. So they weren't finish praying until maybe 11:20. So they start Tarawih around 11:20, 11:30. And they had to start fasting at 3 o'clock in the morning. So Sheikh Ubayd has said, due to that difficulty, then they can what? They can combine between Maghrib and Isha. Due to the what? Due to the difficulty. They can combine, but not shorten it, but they can combine between Maghrib and Isha, due to the difficulty. So once the difficulty kicked in, then what? It was allowed for them to combine the salah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Jayyid. So those difficulties allowed the rukhsa to kick in which the Prophet ﷺ highly emphasized that Allah Ta'ala loves that the ibad, that they accept the rukhsa, that they accept this affair called the rukhsa, or this ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given one, if that particular circumstance necessitates it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. The next narration, when Yatha ibn Abbas, if you look in your books, it says, Yatha ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما قال رخص للشيخ الكبير أن يفطر ويطعم عن كل يوم مسكينا ولا قضى عليه ورواه الدرقطني والحاكم وصححه. When Yatha ibn Abbas رضي الله عنه, it says it's been a rukhsa. Notice it talks about rukhsa again. It's talking about the rukhsa again. رخص للشيخ الكبير أن يفطر وأن يطعم عن كل يوم مسكينا. That's the very next narration. أن يطعم عن كل يوم مسكينا ولا قضى عليه. He says it's been what? It's been made facilitated and easy for the elderly man and woman to break their fast. And they feed for every what? They feed upon every day a person impoverished. A person impoverished or poor or indigent. طيب. Also likewise, there's no what? There's no qada alayh. They do not have to what? Make it up likewise. Once they have fed a person. طيب. Just to sum this affair up, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, because I know what everybody's going to say. Because I have to sum this up, because this is from those masail that has a big khilaf in it. Even myself, since the 90s, I'm always pulled to one, then I do some more reading, then I'm pulled towards another, and then you get another, and then you pull towards another. Like during the 90s, I was on the opinion of the great Imam al-Albani, which we'll talk about as far as the woman who's pregnant and the woman who's breastfeeding. Okay, everyone? I'll discuss that in a minute. The affair of a woman breastfeeding and a woman pregnant. And they're afraid for themselves. I'll talk and discuss that in a minute. But as far as what we're talking about now, the affair goes back to Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, so you notice that Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar had talked about one type of rukhsa, which is what? Traveling. Also, likewise, the great Imam Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani talked about another affair, which gives another example of what they call what? Rukhsa. Another type of what is a rukhsa where a person can take to let you know how generous and true liberality is in this religion, where everything is put in its proper place and how everything has been legislated properly and clearly. Where you know this is affair of what we're discussing is an affair that is ilahi, that this legislation is clearly from Allah, from the one who's the Lord of everything that exists. Look at your books. So notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after the legislation of Ramadan has been laid down, notice, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed for people who are sick, the people who are traveling, and likewise another rukhsa was made. For what? Person who's elderly. To let you know how complete the religion is, and that this is exactly an affair which is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Clearly. How everything has been laid out properly. To the point where it takes into consideration those circumstances that may more than likely have some type of what? Hardship and difficulty in it. And from those circumstances, and when one becomes elderly. So notice it says in the narration, رُخِّصَ لِلشَّيْخِ الْكَبِيرِ أَن يُفْطِرْ. An elderly man and an elderly what? Woman. That they feed upon every day a person's impoverished. So a person now, they reached what they call al-kabir al-hadim, al-haram al-hadim, al-kabir min al-shaykhukha, وهي الكبر. As we know, shaykhukha, or the stage in one's life, which is when a person becomes elderly, that if he does not have the ability to fast, but however his mind is still cognizant, he's still knowing what's going on around him, but he's reached that level where his body is so weak he cannot fast. Ibn Kathir mentions in his tafsir, he mentions this mas'ala, Ibn Kathir, that if a person, let's just say he's elderly but he's very strong in his body, does he still have to fast? Ibn Kathir mentions in his tafsir, does he have to fast even though he's strong in his body, even though he's elderly? There's some people out there, they go against the norm. They're elderly, but they're very, very strong. I've seen some weird things. I've seen people who are 70, 80 years old, and they run just as fast as a 20-year-old. It was strange. Things that really go against the norm of what we're at. We're so-called habitually seeing every day. We've seen certain things that sometimes go out of the norm. Personality, y'all seen women. I've seen people in my family, women that are 60, 70 years old. They have a body like a young, youthful woman. You see things weird every day. And then you see some men that reach the age of 70 and 80, and they walk around like they're 50 and 40. You see that. It happens. So do we say that they have to fast? He says he does. If he finds strength, good answer. He said it's a rukhsa. It is a rukhsa. Because the hadith says rukhis. It says in the narration it's a rukhsa. طيب. You find that Ibn Kathir says that person still has to fast. He does mention it. I'll bring it in. As long as the ability is there, he's strong in his body, he has to do it. The point is when a person becomes elderly, whereas if he has no ability, he has no strength. It's a hardship. It's difficult. Once it's reached that level, then what? Does it have to? طيب. So he says, وَعَقْلُهُ ثَابِتْ فَهَذَا يُؤْمَرُ بِالْفِدْيَةِ. So once a person is, of course, but he's still in the right state of mind. He's cognizant of what's going on. طيب. He said, but however, his body is weak. He has no ability to fast. Here he's commanded to what? Commanded to what? To take the rukhsah of Allah, whereas he feeds an impoverished person every day. Keep in mind that the impoverished person has to be Muslim. Has to be Muslim, not non-Muslim. Has to be Muslim. So he's been commanded to what? Feed a person, which is considered a fidya, a ransom, or is considered what they call a compensation or ransom. For verily it's not upon him to what? To fast. And he's commanded to do that fidya. What is that fidya? Which is to feed an impoverished person every day, which is the amount of what they call nisfu sa' an kulli yawm, which is the amount what they call the half of a sa', which is what they call a kilo and nus. It's a half a kilogram of every day, which is approximately maybe this big. Well, that's siyam alayhi. He does not have to fast, nor does he have to make it up once he's carried out this fidya. Once he's fed a person, he or she who's elderly does not have to what? Make it up. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this book, and this is Surah Al-Baqarah, if you look in your books, it's not in there, but it's in the explanation. Anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in ayah 184, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَمُ مِسْكِينٍ. So it's in the book, it's in the Quran, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions those who are suffering. Then a fidya, or ransom, or compensation of what? Of feeding a poor person. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, yutiqunahu, meaning that they do not have the ability whatsoever, they are incapable of fasting, incapable, which is the elderly person, and similar to that, the person who is sick with a chronic illness, likewise, chronic illness, that hampers him from what? From not fasting. Once a person has that chronic illness, in which he is more than likely knows that he will never be cured from ever, then he does not have to what? Does not have to fast. Rather, he takes the rukhsah and he feeds the person with a what? That compensation by feeding one poor person every day. You'll find that Ahl Ilm mentioned in regards to not preceding the days. There's a lot of people, sometimes they precede them. All right, everyone? You'll find that they precede the days in regards to the what? Feeding the people. Rather, wait for the days that have what? Already elapsed and feed the people according to those days that have already passed. Not preceded them. Like for now, for example, right now it's basically this is going to be the fourth night of Ramadan already. So now, let's just say I want to feed 20 people. Right now, you'll find the majority of Ahl say you can't. He just feeds according to the days that are already passed. That's it. Even though, like I said, somebody sent me a text the other day and I had to do some more research on it. They said something else. But I had to look, they said that it's a little bit of some khilaf, but I'll look into it later. But for what I know, and I've been upon it for years, that a person does not precede the days, because the obligation did not start yet until the day already passed. That's what is known. But other than that, a person should not precede the days. But if a person did it out of ignorance, then there's nothing upon him. You understand, everyone? طيب. So in this regard, we said that the person who's elderly and the woman who's elderly do not have to what? They do not have to fast if they do not have the ability. Rather, they will feed a person who is indigent or poor the nis, or the half of a sa'. They can either do it in the manner what is what? Either for lunch, or they can feed for dinner. They can prepare that food, or they can also what? Entrust one to do it for them. They can prepare it, and they can disseminate it and distribute it for them. So it doesn't matter. So a person can do it while he's what? While he's in the month of Ramadan. Also, what is better is that they are free and do the obligation and free themselves of the obligation in the month of Ramadan likewise. He says, but better the siyama amal barid alladhi yurja. We already talked about that, alhamdulillah. طيب. So what we gather from all these narrations, just to conclude everything. Number one, what is allowed for one to break his fasting is for a traveler who's traveling. Right, everyone? Also, a person who's sick. We just already discussed what type of person who's sick. Who's a person who's either, number one, he has a chronic illness, or he has a what? A sickness where he's finding difficulty, but it might be temporary. However, he cannot feed the person that has a temporary sickness. But the person who has a chronic illness where more than likely he'll never be cured from, that person will what? He has to feed. But a person with a temporary cold or temporary what? Some type of virus or what have you, that person just makes the day up after the month of Ramadan due to the fact that he has the ability still. It's just a temporary sickness. But a person who has a chronic illness, then more than likely he will never be cured from, that person has to what, everyone? He has to feed. That person will feed. Whether it be type 1 diabetes or what have you, to the end of it. Those type of, or person with cancer, or person that performs dialysis, all those type of people who have heart conditions, those type of people will what? Will feed someone every day upon the days that have what? That preceded and during the days of Ramadan. Also from the people who does not fast, rather they feed, is the elderly man, the Shaykh al-Kabir al-Hadim, فَهَذَا يُفْطِرُ وَلَا قَضَى عَلَيْهِ وَيُطْعِمُ كُلِّ يَوْمٍ مِسْكِينًا. We always talked about that. Also the elderly man, likewise breaks his fast and he just feeds every day. Also likewise, what has been commanded to break their fast is a woman who is what? On her mens. And a woman that's on her what? Postnatal bleeding. A woman that's on what they call istihada, we know istihada, she still has to what? She still has to fast. That's something that the women know. I discussed with them already. But at any rate, when a woman is on her mens and she's on her postnatal bleeding after her pregnancy, then it's upon her just to what? Make it up. Not to what? Not to what? Not to feed. She would just make it up after the month is over. Hold on. No. So in that regards, if a woman was to fast while she's on her menstrual postnatal bleeding, is it valid? Is it valid? If a woman was on her mens, or her postnatal bleeding, she fasts, is it valid? Is it valid? Of course, I'm talking generally. It's valid? Oh, okay. It's invalid. If a woman fasts while she's on her mens, it's invalid. Invalid. It's not acceptable. And if she's on her postnatal bleeding, likewise, it's what? It's invalid. If a woman fasts while she's on her mens, it's what? It's invalid. طيب. So just to sum up everything, we have a category that breaks their fast and they feed, and then you have a category where a person breaks their fast and they what? They just make it up. They have to make it up. Based upon the details we've given, we just said, we gave the example of those who break their fast and feed from who? Break the fast and feed, such as? Take your time. Give me one, just one. Don't give everything all simultaneously. Huh? One. Person with a chronic illness. Cancer. That person breaks his fast and what? Feeds. Another person that breaks their fast and feeds. Give me another example. I mean, technically, I'm saying it from... Technically, it's true, yes. Meaning that he doesn't fast at all. But that's what it means. That's what it means. He breaks his fast, meaning that he never fasts. That's my mistake. I should have gave it more. But you'll find that they say fitr, meaning does he... When they say fitr sometimes, that's from my mistake in the translation. Fitr usually mean they don't have to fast, or it means they can break it. When they use the word fitr, that they don't have to fast at all. That's my mistake. طيب. Fitr is what? They can not fast and they can just what? Feed. Such as person who's a chronic illness. Such as person that has a chronic illness. And such as like another person. No, not the sickness. Another person who feeds in it. I mean, the elderly. طيب. Jay. Of course, the weak elderly. طيب. What about now a person that does not fast, but he just makes the day up? Give me examples.
Somebody who has a sickness with a difficult temporary sickness.
Person who's traveling. Traveler can break his fast and what? Make it up. Another person. Person is sick with a little temporary illness. Virus, cold, whatever, if he finds difficulty while he's fasting. Now a person with a light headache, if you have a light headache, you should try to fast. If it's a severe headache, or it's something that's really weighing heavy upon him, he's finding difficulty to fast, then he will break it, make the day up of the month of Ramadan. طيب. What about another person? A woman who's on her menstrual or postnatal bleed. That woman will what? Break a fast and make the month. Huh? She will feed. Huh? She will feed. Yeah, she will feed. No, she would just make the day up. She will make the day up. If a woman is on her mens and she's postnatal bleeding, she will what? Just make the day up. That's it. طيب. تفضل. It's just coming. طيب. That's what I was going to talk about. As far as the pregnant woman, now that is where everybody gets to mix up. That's the exception. Some of Ahl Ilm say that a woman who's pregnant. Number one, just to sum it up, because I don't want to get inside this. This is big khilaf, and I don't like to prolong it. Just to sum it up, just to sum this masala up. A woman who's pregnant, the origin of a woman who's pregnant is that she should still fast. That's the origin. It's the origin. Some women out there can fast while they're pregnant. There's some women out there that have strength. And the baby comes out fine. A person will say, how? Due to the fact, if a person looks in the studies, the pregnancy, how Allah designed the woman, the placenta stores up all the nutrients. The placenta inside the pregnant, it stores all the nutrients and gives it to the baby. So a woman won't eat that much, but the baby will still get nutrients to its growth and its development. But anyway, some women have the ability to do that. They can be pregnant, fasting won't affect them. It's normal. However, now certain circumstances, of course, there is difficulty. Every woman is different in their pregnancy. Some women become extremely sick. Some women do find difficulty. Here in that instance, and this has been something for years, I've been going through every year. You have the opinion of a woman, all she has to do is what? Feed, and that's it. No more, no less. If a woman is pregnant, and a woman is what? Breastfeeding. And she's afraid for herself, and she's afraid for her what? For the actual janeen, for the fetus, or for the baby. That if she's afraid for herself and the baby, then what? You have the opinion of the great Imam al-Albani, which is what? That all she has to do is what? Feed. Right? Then you have the opinion of the great Imam Sha'uthami, where he just says she just has to what? Make up the day, that's it. Then you have the opinion of the great Imam Sheikh Salih Fawzan, where he says that she has to what? She has to make that day up and feed. Both. And that's also the opinion of the great Imam Sheikh Zayd ibn Hadi Madkhali, and other than that. طيب. What I've summed up from this is this affair is, like I said, one year I'm pulled this way, another year I'm pulled that way. What I find is to the sisters to do what is easy upon them in this matter. If you take the opinion of Shaykh al-Albani, fine. I'm not going to argue with you. Even though I lean towards even what Shaykh Uthaymeen says, where he just says she just makes it up. One year, of course, back in the 90s, I was leaning towards Shaykh al-Albani's opinion. Khalas. He said what Ibn Abbas said, Abdullah ibn Umar, khalas, done. You understand? Which is just for to feed. That's it. So a woman can either, if she wants to take what's easy for her, where she has to feed, then let her feed. So she takes the opinion of Shaykh al-Albani in this opinion, in this regard, I have no problem. Then if she was take the opinion of Shaykh Uthaymeen, where she just makes up the day, no problem. Because the masala has a big khilaf in it to the point where sometimes I even get a headache. You understand, everyone? But even the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymeen, he says there's no dalil for a person. What's the dalil to say that she has to do both? Even what he says that now she has to mix up the day and feed. He says no dalil for that. He says no dalil for that. Which there's some from the ulama that say they have to do both. From them, Shaykh Salih Fawzan says she has to make up the day and feed both. So Shaykh Uthaymeen said there's no dalil for that. What's the dalil? She has to do both. Right? So that's the reason why I lean towards what he says, rahimahullah. But if one takes the opinion of Shaykh al-Albani, whether she just feeds and that's it, no problem. Nobody's going to what? Criticize you. Is it clear what I'm saying? Because I know I'm going to hear, I go through this every year. Well, so-and-so says she got to feed. No. So-and-so just said make up the fat. You'll find, not only Shaykh Uthaymeen takes the opinion that she just has to make up the day. That's it. As long as she has the ability to fast, then she should what? Make up the day. That she does not have to feed, right? Not only Shaykh Uthaymeen takes that opinion, Shaykh Abdulaziz bin Baz takes that opinion, and also the Lajna Da'ima, the standing committee. Likewise, Shaykh Abdulaziz bin Baz, Shaykh Uthaymeen, and also I think Shaykh Muhammad Ibrahim, Shaykh Abdullah Qa'ud, and I think Shaykh Salih al-Haydan. They say that she just what? From the standing committee. Saying that she just what? She just feeds, that's it. That's the opinion of the Lajna Da'ima. So that's why I kind of lean towards. Even though I lean towards the opinion of Shaykh al-Albani before. Like I said, the masala has in it's what they call mutajadiba. It's very strong in either side pulling each other. It's one of those type of masail. It's very strong. So you find that if you read what Shaykh al-Albani says, she just feeds it and that's it. And uses the statement of Abdullah ibn Abbas and also the statement from Abdullah ibn Umar, and his evidence is very strong, his position. So if a woman wanted to take that, nobody's going to what? Ostracize or criticize her if she took that opinion. Jayyid? Is it clear what I'm saying?
No.
Even though I lean towards what Shaykh Uthaymeen says. I lean towards that, so she just makes up the day and that's it. But she does not have to do both. Is it clear?
No.
So I just summed it up for everybody. I don't want to get into something that would be turned into an hour-long conversation over something that could be discussed within 4 or 5 minutes and just keep it moving. طيب, we'll stop here inshallah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.